Hello. I thought that as I can't run anymore, I can hardly walk these days, to be honest. My left leg, I've got pains on the front outside of my left shin now, just to add to my other complications. So I thought, well, as I can't barely walk now, I'd do a history of, put myself off again, talk through my running career. It's worth starting talking about my running career by adding that I was born with a club foot. So I had an operation on that not long after. I obviously can't remember because I was only a baby, but I had an operation on my foot in the first year and had to wear a plaster cast, I think, for the first year. And there's another video on YouTube of my corrected club foot. So it didn't, apparently there's a lot better ways of doing it these days. This was 1966 I was born. But I had quite severe surgery, as you can see from that other video. So I had the operation at when I was first born, and then I had another operation when I was 6 at Winchester Hospital, just outside Bristol. I can't remember much about it, but I can remember being there for quite a long time. All I can remember is being taught how to walk after the operation. Heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe. I was taught to walk. So I had that when I was 6, and then went to South Africa when I was 7 in 1974. And no running took place as such, no sort of organised running. Obviously I ran to do things. The first running I can remember is towards the end of probably the last year, probably the last year I was in South Africa. They organised a sprinting competition because there was an inter-school competition. I was in junior school, only being about 10 or 11, and so we only had sprinting events. They didn't make us do any running longer than that at that stage. So they had a sprinting event, and in spite of the fact that I had this corrected club foot, I still couldn't work out why I couldn't qualify for the school. I can't remember where I finished, but I didn't qualify to run for the school. Then after that, I left South Africa in 1977, December, and started school in Yate, in Bristol, near Bristol. It might be in Bristol one day, you never know where things are going, with cities growing. I'm not sure if it was the first year I was there, but they had a cross-country team, and for some reason, I think perhaps I obviously recognised I couldn't sprint because of my foot by that stage, but I could keep running for quite a long time, so I tried to see if I could enter the school team for a cross-country, and admittedly I was the slowest of the team members, and admittedly not many people volunteer for cross-country running. I did actually get into the team. I think there were 6 runners for each school in the North Avon Championships, and I was the 6th and last member every time. I can't remember many races. I can remember Brimsham Green School for some reason. I think that might have been the first race. I remember my mum buying me some nice trainers that I liked to wear. And any other race I can remember, I used to finish in the 50s, 60s. I think I might have finished in the 40s once. I can't remember exactly. Then the other race I can remember is I was obviously the slowest of the 6 in the team. Someone But there was also an Avon Championship where they used to put in, I think, 3. I'm not sure exactly. But my PE teacher came up to me and said, someone's pulled out of the Avon School Championships. Will you do it? Will you run? And I was torn because I wanted to do it, but also I had an injury in my, I think it was my right thigh, I'm not sure exactly. And I didn't want to say no, so I thought, in my mind I reasoned, I've got club foot, so surely the fact I've got a slightly sore right thigh shouldn't really matter because I'm struggling with my club foot anyway. So I said yes, I'll do it. And I finished the race. I think it was at the Grange School in Bristol, over Oldland Common. And I came in about 70th, I think. I didn't finish last. I never finished last. So that was when there was school cross-country championships as well. And I think I came. Also bear in mind a lot of people, if you ask them to do a cross-country run, they'll do it as slow as they can. Whereas my theory was, once I've finished, I finished. So I always used to do it as fast as I possibly could. I also used to bear in mind that I would get lost if I was leading. It's guaranteed I've got a terrible directional sense. So that's my excuse, never running a race. And in the school championships, I think I came 4th in one year and 5th in another year. I was only there for January 78 to May 1980. So it was during that time I used to run over Yate Common, which is nice and boggy. So that was Yates running. I used to play football as well. That's another story. So then I went to Beach and Cliff School in Bath, which I really loved because it was a boys' school. Hated every minute of it. I was there from 1980 to 1984, and I only ran one. They didn't have a cross-country team. I only ran in. Did do one cross-country race for the year. I can't remember which year it was. And again, I wanted to finish as fast as I could, get over with, and I finished 3rd. And as I finished, the geography teacher, I think his name was Riok or something, looked at me, had a ticket to give me to confirm which number I'd finished, and threw it away. So that was that good. My time was at Beach and Cliff School. Sums up really. So that was running, finished then. I didn't do any. That's the only running I ever did, apart from playing football, other sports. And the next time I did running, I was getting, well, I was 30-ish, so I decided to tick off a half marathon, and so I started training, running obviously, to train, and I did the 1997, I think, pretty sure it was, 1997 Bristol Half Marathon, and I finished in a time low 1 hour 50s. I can't remember exactly what the time was, and I decided I could do better. I don't know why I thought that, because it just stopped. However, I decided I could do a better time. So I carried on training, and I did another half marathon in Yate in July, I think it was, of 1988. And my training had gone well, and a lot of the first part of the race was downhill, starting in Yate, I think shopping centre, near the shopping centre, down into Chilham Sodbury. And I was going at a heck of a pace. I was doing about 7-minute miles for about the first 6 miles, and then I got to the 7th mile, and I was absolutely green crackered, and I had to stop and walk. If only it had been a 5 mile race, I would have done a very good time. And so I was absolutely exhausted. I couldn't run anymore, and the problem was the circuit. For people who couldn't run after getting halfway, the circuit was a loop, one big circle loop, and the point I was at, I was 7 minutes away from the finish. Sorry, 7 minutes. 7 miles. I think it was 7 minutes. 7 miles away from the finish. I was as far away from the finish as I could be. But I couldn't run, so I had to walk. I had to walk the remaining, 6 miles, wasn't it? 6 miles to the finish, and I had people waiting for me at the finish. So I had to get there. I did see an ambulance at one point. I did consider asking for a lift. Other than that, though, no, I walked the remaining 6 miles until about half a mile from the finish, and then I ran. But it was, the other thing to mention was it was a ridiculously hot day. It was July, and they started the race at 11 o'clock. It was so hot, and a lot of the course, once you've left Chipping Sodbury, was with hedges surrounding the road, so you got no breeze either. So it was quite hot and hard work. So I was looking at the watch, not wearing it at the moment, so not like to be a fit band. And I looked at the watch, I thought, I've got to be 2 hours. And so, like I said, I ran, I think probably about the last half mile, and finished just under 2 hours and about 1 hour, no, it was definitely 1 hour 59. I made sure I finished below the 2 hours. So that was the 8 half marathon. Then there was the Bristol half marathon again in October of '88, and I did it in a very good time of 1 hour 46. I think on my own watch, because obviously there's a queue to get to the start line. I think on my own watch it was about 1 hour 44, so I was really pleased with that. So then I decided that's enough. I've run enough, because like I said, I've got club foot. I've got one leg shorter than the other as well, by about half an inch. So yeah, so I decided that was a good time. I was happy with that. And then what happened first? I've forgotten now. Yes, I moved to Dublin, and they do a. I've discussed this before on YouTube, but I try to remember again. They did a marathon. I thought, I'm doing a half marathon. I'm reaching another age, 40ish. I'm 40ish. 2007 it was, so I was 41, yeah. I'm 41. Let's try and do a marathon. So I had to start training again. And I started training in Reading, yeah. Started training in Reading. I did a mile, which took forever. I didn't think the mile would ever end. So I hadn't at that point decided to do Dublin, because I didn't know I was going to go to Dublin. So I decided to start training again and get fit. So that was it. And I did a mile, and I never thought the mile would end. And then did some more running, and I then did the Forest of Dean half marathon. And I can't remember why I didn't wear my fitness, my Garmin, I'm not sponsored by them, my Garmin watch. For some reason I didn't wear it, and I wasn't as fit as I could have been, but I managed, because I was with a pacemaker, I managed to do it in my fastest ever half marathon time. Unfortunately, I didn't write it down, and I didn't wear my watch for recording my time. And I've checked the website recently in the last year, and I haven't got results that long ago. So I think it was definitely under 1 hour 44 that I'd done in Bristol, and it was helped by the fact that the last mile was all downhill. If it had been uphill or perhaps level, I probably wouldn't have done it, but it was all downhill, so that's marvellous. And then I did the Dublin Marathon, which I've discussed previously on YouTube, but just to summarise, I hadn't done much because of my my leg issues. I couldn't train as much as I wanted to because I do a lot. If I do a long run, like a half marathon, it takes me a good week to then recover enough to be able to run again. Not only that, I kept getting blisters on my toes, which stopped me running as well. I couldn't even do once a week. I'd have to wait even longer because the blisters would be so bad. So in training for the marathon, I'd run about, my maximum distance I'd run was 2 hours. So the best thing I decided I could do, because when I ran I noted, and tried to recover afterwards, I noticed that it was my thighs that I struggled with the most. It was my thighs that hurt the most. So I decided, okay, I can't run, I'll just go on an exercise bike. So I used to supplement my running with exercise bike, and so that's what I did. And then on the actual marathon day, I'll say again, I thought there were elite runners going off first, and then us, you know, normal people would go off afterwards. So, and I didn't want to run with a full bladder, and just before the race started, I needed to go because I'd hydrated, and essentially you hydrate and then you need to go for a wee, removing all the whatever. So I was standing in the queue for a Portaloo before the race started, and I heard this, God no, gun or whatever go off. I thought, well, that's elite people going. So I still stood there, waiting for the Portaloo to become empty, and it became empty. I walked in, I did, I had a wee, and smelled the usual chemicals. Nice, I thought, no. And then I casually walked up to the start line. And as I was getting close to the start line, I realised there was no one there. And I suddenly realised that everyone had started without me. So I had to run, to not look quite so stupid, over the start line. And the only good thing was it made me then run fast to at least catch some people up, and I overtook quite a lot of people during the first 9 miles up to about, you get to Phoenix Park, which I've never been to before. Then there's a downhill section, and up to that point I was making good progress, and then I started to slow after about 9-10 miles, and then I got to 20 miles, and not only was I possibly running slower than I could walk, if you know what I mean, it's like almost running on the spot. There was a drink station at the bottom of a dirty great hill, like that it was, perhaps even like that. And I thought, I'm practically running slower than I can walk as it is. I could fancy a drink. And so I walked up that hill, having a nice drink out of a nice plastic cup. And then I got to 21 miles after that hill and got to a dual carriageway. There was no crowd. It was a dual carriageway. There was an airport bus going by, and for some reason that triggered me to say, I've run enough, thank you. So I got 21 miles in a decent time, about 3.5 hours. And then I had to walk, obviously better than Yate, where I had to walk 6 miles. I had to walk the remaining 5 miles to the finish. And as I got towards the last 2 miles, the crowd started to return, and so I felt a bit bad about just walking. And so for the final, and there was a banner as well saying something like death or glory. So that motivated me as well. And so I ran the last 1.5 miles, and I didn't run it I ran it at a pretty decent pace as well. And so I finally finished in 4 hours 45 on the clock. I did it in a slightly faster time, obviously, because I started after the clock, long after the clock had actually started ticking. One, because there was no crowd, and obviously I was late as well, so I was nearer 4:40. And then next day I was in before I forget, well, they had a massage service after the race for the runners, and I got there, and apparently I was too late to have a massage, and so I was a bit annoyed. I must admit, I might even have sworn. I was a bit annoyed about that. One, because if you can do it in a fast time, sure you don't. That's one. Two, you don't need to massage, do you? You're fit enough as it is. Well, that's three. I'm not sure I've actually made 3 points, but that's 3 anyway. Us people who are slow, we need to massage the most, don't we? So why back up after 5 hours? That's the time when your best customers are coming in. But no, sorry, you're too late. So yes, I walked home because I lived near enough to the finish line. Luckily I wasn't working by that time, October 2007, because the next day I could hardly move, let alone these people who do a marathon a day, you're having a laugh, aren't you? I can't believe that's true at all. I could hardly get out of bed. I would sit on the sofa. After half marathons, I used to find, hands going like that for some reason. After half marathons, I'd find I couldn't cope with steps very well, whereas after a full marathon, I couldn't actually move, and I'd stagger to the sofa, to get out of bed, and then to actually move from the sofa, say to the dining table, to eat something was incredibly difficult. And so for the next 7 days I was practically immobile. But after come 7 days I could move again. And so I never want to do a marathon ever again. Once was definitely enough. Half marathons, that's okay. Obviously I can't actually walk at the moment. But half marathons I could cope with and recover from. A marathon was just crazy trying to recover from that. And I also forgot, in my build up to the Dublin Marathon, I flew back and did this, because I used to be called Salisbury. I did the Salisbury half marathon, and I didn't, at that point I wasn't wearing, initially when I did the half marathon in Bristol I wasn't wearing orthotics. I started wearing them because I discovered them, orthotics, and things you put in your shoes to help you walk properly. I didn't have them. I can't remember what happened with them. I lost them in the house move somewhere. and so I decided to do the Salisbury half marathon, and without wearing orthotics, and that was the worst half marathon ever. I had family there, and they had to wait for me again, and I had to start walking at an even earlier point. I can't remember actually when it was. I started walking, but it's quite a hilly course as well, and I was at one point I was going to be the last person to finish, which in some ways I was quite happy about. You know, I was last. And I was about 400 yards from the finish, and there was a bloke in front of me, and I was about to be last, and he collapsed with some unknown knee injury or something, and so I overtook him at a very slow walking pace, and so I was the penultimate first person to finish the Salisbury half marathon in a time of just over 3 hours, I think it was. So that was that. Yeah, that was before the Dublin marathon. And so when I returned to Dublin, I sought out someone who did orthotics, and so I got those before I did the Dublin marathon for training. And when I returned to France, so I mean Britain, I ran one more race, and it was the Clapham Common 10k, and I didn't do a bad time, to be honest. It was about 50 minutes, 50 minutes. That's me. And that was the last time I ran in an event, which is about 2008. And I've also forgotten, I did a Cardiff, when I was working in Cardiff in between 2000 and 1997, I did the Cardiff half marathon, I'm sorry, Cardiff 10k, and then there was a bet on for me to finish it in a certain time. Unfortunately, I didn't complete the time. I had to buy McDonald's breakfast for everyone, I think it was. Unfortunately, I finished outside my time. But the thing I remember about that 10k was, one, whenever I was behind an attractive woman, she always ran too fast. She always ran slightly too fast for me to stick with her and admire her as she ran. If only I could have found a woman who ran just that little bit faster than me to keep me going, I would have run much better times throughout my running career. But I never found that woman. Oh yes, there's quite a lot of people running in the race, so you had the usual problem of queuing across the start line, and then just as you got going, you had to run through one of the parks in Cardiff, and you had to go through a gate, which is just a normal doorway size, and so there was then a queue to get through that door or gate. So so that, if I hadn't been for that, I'm sure I would have actually made the time, possibly. So there you are. That's a lot of rambling about my running career now that it's over. Where are we again? It's the 15th of May 2015. So it's 15:05, 15. Shame there's no 15 months in there, because you could have 15, 15, 15, but that's not the case. And what's happening on Twitter? That's happening on Twitter. I can't actually see it because the noise is so bad. Felder and Felder. England had beaten Russia 21-12 and joined Canada, France, USA and Australia in the quarters. London Sevens rugby. Spain beat New Zealand. They're the best up to now. They've been the best women's rugby sevens team. Unbelievable. So that's that. Currently 16:55. Can't reach. I was trying to think, which takes some doing for me these days. I was trying to think why I only ran one cross-country race in Beeching Cliff, and I omitted that I had to have another operation on my foot, my right, previously club foot, in that sort of time. So I can only presume I missed one because I was recovering from an operation. I had it when I was about 13 or 14, it must have been when I was 14. I had to have the tendons at the front of my foot lengthened so I could, because my foot had grown. And I went to recuperate in Cambridge with my auntie, with my family at the time, and I would have been quite happy to use crutches, but my father, bless him, decided he would get me a wheelchair. So he ferried me about in a wheelchair while I was waiting for the foot to recover, and it was great that he did that. But every time he put me in it, he was so grumpy. He'd give a good old shove to get me going. So I'd rather have had some crutches and been a bit more mobile on my own. So there you go. So that was that. So that was why I reckon I needed one cross-country run in Beeching Cliff. My previous school was King Edmunds in Yate, and my PE teacher was Mr. Pratt. So that was that. The other things to mention was the fact that when I went on a almost round the world trip to Singapore, Australia, New Zealand and Tokyo, I decided I wanted to run somewhere because I was reasonably fit at that stage. After I'd done the marathon in Dublin, it was a while again before I ran because I must have given myself a stress fracture in my left leg. The pain was terrible trying to stand on my left leg. It wasn't initially, obviously as I mentioned before, the first problem I had was that I couldn't actually walk at all because everything was seized up. Afterwards though, I noticed I had this pain in my left leg, and I saw doctors in Dublin before I returned. I saw doctors in Basingstoke and had various investigations, and no one could work out where the pain was coming from. Don't ask me why. It must be my face. And so I struggled for quite a long time afterwards with the pain in my left leg. So eventually, after that subsided, which took a while, I started running again and did the Clapham Common 10k, and then I went on this round the world trip almost, because I got to New Zealand and returned the same way I'd come, and I decided I wanted to run somewhere. I decided it was be Australia, and I went to Sydney, didn't run, although I did see someone. I was sitting in Sydney Harbour by the Opera House, and a woman dashed past me, and I wondered whether she left an iron on. But even so, I still wasn't motivated to run in Sydney. So I flew to Melbourne and decided I would run there. And the first day I arrived, I got a sore throat, and so I felt quite grim for the 3 or 4 days I was there. And so finally, the last day I had to do it. It was night time, and I had to go for this run. I did about 4 miles. I ran from my hotel and then followed the river for a while. Past the two stadiums, I think it's Rugby League and Rugby Union, I can't remember now. Past the stadiums and running along the river, and I got to a bloke fishing. I decided that once I'd reached him, that was far enough, and so I then ran back. And I was surprised how well, I was not convinced, my Garmin watch was actually recording the right information, because I did about just over 4 miles and I managed 8-minute miles. So that was good. That was in 2009. I did that. I've got the exact date, hopefully stored on my Kindle file. Running Melbourne, 25th of April 2008. Near enough. 19:20 in the evening. 4.37 miles. And then, so I didn't do much running after that. Then I got into my head in 2011, January, that I'd do a 20-mile walk/run. Of course, the problem with doing that is that you need sustenance. If you do a marathon, you've got all the water stations. Of course, if doing it on my own, I'd have no one to put drinks out for me. So I decided I would do this walk/run, because I wasn't fit enough to do a 20-mile run. And after the marathon, I wasn't that keen to run that far anyway. What with the stiffness and then the bad leg afterwards. So I decided I'd do a walk/run, and I thought I could get to Winchester as part of that running. So that was the aim, walk to Winchester. And I ran for about the first 3 miles, and then I needed to walk. So to help me with my sustenance, I actually had a backpack with some water in, which obviously slowed me down as well. So the aim was to get to Winchester, and I had a printed out map, and I went wrong somewhere, and the only way I could get to Winchester was on the dual carriageway. And I walked up to it, had a look and thought, no, I don't think I'll be walking along the dual carriageway. The car is going past at 60-70 miles an hour. So I thought, what shall I do? So I checked how far I'd walked and decided what I'd do is walk out to a certain distance, which would get me to 20 miles if I then walked to Micheldever station. Because I decided I'd walk out along country roads and then walk back to Micheldever station and get a train home. So that's what I did. Mostly walking, a bit of running, but mostly walking, until I got to the very last section, which was to the Micheldever station, which is all downhill. So there's no way I could not run the last, and it's quite a steep downhill as well, so it was ideal. Excuse me, there's no way I could not run the last section. So I did that, and then sat and waited at Micheldever station for a train, and it took me just fractionally under 5 hours. And the really annoying thing is, when I got home and other than the 20-mile walk run, I uploaded the information from my watch to my computer, and I turned my watch off too soon, hadn't I? I didn't realise. I was convinced I'd done 20 miles. When I uploaded it onto my computer, it said 19.98 miles. I was 0.02 of a mile short of 20 miles. But of course I turned it off. So I had actually walked more than 20 miles on that expedition. But I turned my watch off too soon. How annoying. So that was the last time I did some serious, in inverted commas, walking, a bit of running. And now, my leg's got worse since. I've got this lump in my my thigh, just about there, which you can't see, and a line just above my knee as well, which goes, I thought my veins were being played with or something, but this one goes straight across my leg rather than towards my heart, which you think it would be the course it would take. So yeah, I don't know what's going on. I did manage the stairs today. So there was, that's the stuff I missed from my last chat about my running history. I think I've covered everything now. If I think of anything else, I'll write it down. Thank you very much. This is Micheldever saying goodbye.